This is Sreehari from Mr. Phone, and it hasn't been a long time that I reviewed the last Realme phone, but the new one is already here. So this is the Realme 5 Pro. It's a successor to the Realme 3 Pro that wasn't launched a long time ago. So you already have the successor that's a fast moving upgrade process, but you have the Realme 5 Pro already here with a quad camera setup as promised from Realme. But is all this package worth your money? Well, let's find out in this video. So before we jump into the video, don't forget to subscribe to the Mr. Phone channel and also hit the bell icon right next to it so that you get notified when Mr. Phone puts out an all new video. So starting with design, the Realme 5 Pro is not any different from the 3 Pro. And when it comes to ergonomics, again, it is pretty much the same. That said, it looks so different due to the new crystal design at the back. The design is somewhat of an evolution of the diamond cut design popularized by Realme itself in its initial phones. Crystal design on my unit is especially very premium looking, and I'm so glad I said this in the first impressions as well because it's just so elegant. The button placements and the port placements remain the same, but for the first time we have a USB Type-C port in a Realme Pro series. The speakers are at the bottom, so is the headphone jack. The headphone jack is pretty standard. That said, the speakers are actually louder than the last time. That's especially because there is a smart AM2 now behind those speakers, which is giving you that loud single mono speaker sound. Now at the back you have a quad camera array that we'll discuss later, but also a fingerprint scanner at the back, and there is face unlock as well. The fingerprint scanner is quite fast, but the face unlock works very well as well. So you have two biometric unlocks on this phone. Now coming to display, it's the same old but the same good old Full HD Plus panel that we saw with the Realme 3 Pro. This time it does feel slightly brighter, which is something I like, and also Realme's characteristic boosted colors are something that I like. This is something I find on AMOLED displays appealing as well, and having that on an LCD display surely helps. Now this is a very good quality panel, so viewing angles are almost perfect, the white point is quite near accurate, and the enhancements in ColorOS with the white actually shining through the whole phone. I actually like how the display is. It looks very good. It comes with a screen protector already pre-applied on the phone, so you do not have to worry about getting one when you unbox. The phone comes with Widevine L1 certification, which means that you can watch HD stuff on Prime Video or Netflix. It doesn't have HDR support for sure because of the price range, but you do get quite a good multimedia viewing experience. There's no visible color bleed on the display either, and while the bottom bezels are not as thin as the upper one, it actually looks quite nice for its price range. Also, this new wallpaper truly enhances the way that display looks. Now with software, we have ColorOS, and we have been through ColorOS enough times in the past 3 to 4 months to go through all of it again. Now we've done reviews for the Realme 3 Pro, Realme 2 Pro, we have the Realme X review. So all of these videos will show you a major chunk of ColorOS, but the only things we're going to talk about in this video are the changes and that have made ColorOS slightly better. Now the first change that I saw is with how it looks. The first of it is actually the icons. They are slightly now rounder. There are a few changes that have been made in the app drawer to make it look slightly more like stock. You have the notification panel especially looking absolutely beautiful with those round icons. Now there is more parity in the UI than there before was, and I've actually talked about this in a previous Realme review, and I'm so glad that Realme has worked on it and made sure that it looks better than it did before. Now it's certainly not perfect at this point, but it is a step in the right direction. In the settings, it's pretty much the same that you had earlier. You have the navigation mode that you saw with the Realme X in the Realme 5 Pro as well. Now if you're people who certainly know for sure that ColorOS is not your cup of tea, then this is certainly not the phone for you. But if you are someone who doesn't have a preference really, then ColorOS has actually become a lot better, and you might actually like using it a lot. Coming to performance, you have a Snapdragon 712 chipset built on top of a 10nm process, and you have 4GB 64GB variant, 6GB RAM 64GB variant, and 8GB 128GB, which is the one that we are using right now, and you also have expandable storage up to 256GB. So you actually have quite a bit of storage there, and of course while you can upgrade that storage, expand that using a micro SD card, the storage that you get inside the phone is actually going to be much faster because this time Realme is using the UFS 2.1 storage in the Realme 5 Pro. which means that you will have very fast app opening speeds, and the phone, among a few others, possesses one of the fastest storages under 20,000 rupees. Now coming to benchmarks, as you can see, we ran Geekbench and 3D Mark. For some reason Antutu did not run on this, and on Geekbench you actually got 1904 on single core score and 5811 on multi-core. When it comes to 3D Mark, you got a 2071 on OpenGLES. We actually ran Slingshot Extreme, and you got 1983 on Vulkan. Now if you compare it to other processors in this price range, this certainly is better than what you got with the Snapdragon 710 in the Realme X. So you actually have on paper a better performance compared to the Realme X, and it is on par with what the Snapdragon 712 in the Vivo Z1 Pro scored. So you actually have similar scores to the 712 in other phones as well, and the 712, as a matter of fact, is one of the fastest chipsets in this price range under 20,000. Of course, if you ignore last year's Snapdragon 845 in the Poco F1, you actually have the fastest processor, and the 712 also being built on a 10 nanometer process means you'll have better efficiency. Now here is a PUBG gameplay. I actually played PUBG and PES on this phone, and it was absolutely smooth. Processors have really come down in price. When the 712, the 675 were all revealed, we actually expected all these processors to go over 20,000 rupees, but with Xiaomi and Realme and other brands actually being so damn aggressive here in India, you now have processors that otherwise would have been around 25,000-30,000 in other countries. They are still in this price range, and you have such processors in the 13,000-14,000 price range, and it's absolutely nuts. So the performance part of it, you absolutely do not have to worry about. Now coming to cameras, this is actually reaching its limit, because you now have the Sony IMX586 48 megapixel sensor in the Realme 5 Pro, and it's probably right now the cheapest phone on the market that you can get, or the most, but as of now the Realme 5 Pro is the most affordable Sony IMX586 sensor phone with that 48 megapixels. You also actually get an ultra wide camera. Realme actually announced that they'll have quad cam setups in 3 ranges. So one is the X range, where we'll see the Realme XT come out very soon. We have one in the Pro series, which is this one, which is the Realme 5 Pro, and we have one with the Realme 5 in the number series, which also has a quad camera setup, a review of which is also coming very soon, so stay subscribed if you want to see that. But here you have a 48 megapixel standard sensor, an ultra wide lens, and 2 megapixel macro lens, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor, and a front camera, which is the Sony IMX471. It's a 16 megapixel camera, and it's the exact same camera that the Realme X has, and the Realme 5 Pro improves upon that with extra lenses, extra wide angle lenses. In that comparison, in that specific comparison, the Realme 5 Pro was number 1. So the Realme 5 Pro only had 1 point more than the Mi A3 and the Realme X. So what I can tell you is that all 3 cameras are absolutely good. But talking about the Realme 5 Pro, the best things about the Realme 5 Pro are, first of all, the dynamic range, the impressive dynamic range in selfie pictures, in back camera pictures, in any situations. Realme 5 Pro is actually absolutely crushing that dynamic range. You also have great selfies coming out of the Realme 5 Pro. Realme X already is one of the best phones for selfies under 20,000. The Realme 5 Pro coming to videos is very, very good. The back camera footage is very good. You have great colors. At 1080p, you have the option to choose between 30 or 60 FPS. But more importantly, the reason that it won that video round was because in the front camera, there is EIS on the Realme 5 Pro. That's something that won it that round. Finally, in a nutshell, if the Realme 5 Pro is better than the Mi A3 or the Realme X, will actually depend on situations. In that camera comparison, of course, the Realme 5 Pro came on top. That said, the Realme 5 Pro is absolutely one of the best cameras, if not the best, under 20,000. Finally, moving to battery, we have a 4000 mAh battery with a 45 mAh cut compared to the Realme 3 Pro, but I wouldn't really consider it a downgrade. That's just nothing. Good thing is that you get the same 20 watt VOOC 3.0. So let's hope that soon we'll have USB Type-C ports in more budget phones from Realme as well. That said, in functionality, this is one of the true examples that between the Realme 3 Pro and the Realme 5 Pro, although one of them has a micro USB port and the other one has a USB-C port, you'll actually find no difference in the charging speeds or data transfer speeds, which means that while you do get USB Type-C and it feels much better or more futuristic, it isn't really a big deal in functionality. Now, compared to the Realme 3 Pro, the 20 watt charger actually does not take any more or any less time to charge up this Realme 5 Pro. The Realme 3 Pro only took 1 hour 20 minutes. That's almost exactly as much as the Realme 5 Pro takes, so there's not really a big difference with USB Type-C, but you do get very, very fast charging. Finally, we come to an end of this review. So that was the Realme 5 Pro. Is the Realme 5 Pro worth it? Well, absolutely yes. At a starting price of 13,999, the fact that you get a Snapdragon 712, the fact that you get 4 gigs of RAM, 64 GB storage, expandable storage, UFS 2.1 storage, LPDDR4X RAM, the quad camera setup with a 48 megapixel Sony IMX586, that wide angle camera, macro camera, depth camera, that same front camera that passed the Realme X with such beautiful selfies, the display, slightly improved look of the Color OS, the 4000 mAh battery, and USB Type-C with VOOC 3.0. Why wouldn't anyone buy this phone? Well, of course, there is competition for this. At this price, at this moment in India, if you go to a pure spec to price ratio, then the Realme 5 Pro does stand on top. That said, there are other phones in this price range. We have the Vivo Z1 Pro, which has the same Snapdragon 712, which has a larger 5000 mAh battery with 18 watt charging, Vivo's Fun Touch OS, but the cameras are certainly not as good as the Realme 5 Pro. Then we come to the Redmi Note 7 Pro, which is now actually a slightly older device. It has a slightly older processor, the Snapdragon 675. The cameras, of course, it has the Sony IMX586. We get more cameras on this, of course, but the performance of the Mi A3 was already better than the Redmi Note 7 Pro, and this does perform equally as good as the Mi A3, if not better. That Mi A3 is, of course, another option if you want a stock Android phone and a minimal experience. That Mi A3 will give you that. Now, another phone that's not necessarily in the exact same price range as this, but the other phone, when you go to the higher end variant of this, you get the Realme X. Now, between the Realme X and the Realme 5 Pro, the processor is actually better on the Realme 5 Pro. You have the same software experience as well, which means that performance should be slightly marginally better on the Realme 5 Pro. But extra cameras with the wide angle and the macro lens certainly means that the camera performance is also better. That's it. The one thing that makes the Realme X truly stand apart is actually the fact that you get an AMOLED display and a full screen AMOLED display at that, but wants a minimal but premium experience from their phone. The Realme 5 Pro is a more of a feature stuffed phone, and that is where the difference comes in. If you want a feature stuffed phone, this is it. If you want a more premium looking device with that full screen AMOLED display, then the Realme X is your option, or just wait for the Realme X3 to come out. That's it. The Realme 5 Pro, I think, is a true successor to the Realme 3 Pros, and I think is certainly an absolute good buy for the 13,999 price. With that, I leave it to it. Thank you so much for watching. This is Sreehari from Mr. Phone, and I'll catch you in the next one.